So first of all, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. I appreciate this webinar is on a Friday at 9 a.m, so it is quite niche. So for those, I'm going to be your host for the kind of the next 45 minutes. And for those that don't know me, my name is Sarah Crawley. I'm one of the co-founders of Simterra, which is a construction communication platform built for site teams. I used to work as a project manager for Mace in the healthcare refurb team. And today I'm joined by three great individuals. And what unites all of them is their unique journey of building and growing their own ventures in construction. So I think, Katie, if we start with you, if you want to give a quick wave just to identify you.
Hello.
So Katie has worked in sales, she's worked in recruitment before transitioning into construction as a crane crawler operator. Katie has an incredible podcast called Tales from the Hook, which I couldn't recommend checking out enough. I'm not sure how comfortable she is with this term, but she is an influencer, and she uses that platform to talk, share and educate people about, the variety of opportunities within construction. So that's kind of very much Katie. Caroline, you want to give us a wave? So, Caroline is a civil engineer and has worked as a project and program manager for the likes of Mace and Jacobs, to name a few. She set up Layla Carmichael, which specialises in strategic program management and delivery of heritage and restoration projects. And finally, Christina, do you want to give us a quick wave?
Hello.
So Christina is a structural engineer who has over 20 years of experience working on some absolutely seriously impressive buildings. I mean, she's literally worked for, I feel like, everybody. And, alongside Fosters and Partners, Square and Partners, for the likes of Bureau Happel, Arup, Expedition, to name just very, very few. So that's kind of who's speaking kind of today. And I'm going to jump kind of now straight into it. So you've all taken very different routes in establishing and growing new ventures in construction. And Katie, in one of your podcasts, I think it's like episode 3, you talk about kind of like a defining moment, which I think is Laing O'Rourke ringing you up. So what I wanted to ask you is around like what happened to get to that point and for you to go, yeah, why not? I am going to take what is quite a significant shift and leap.
I guess I'd worked in sales for a number of years, started in mobile phones, but I was never a great salesperson. It's one of those things you get kind of stuck in as people do in jobs. And once you're a salesperson, you're always a salesperson. So it's very easy to find another sales job doing advertising, sales, whatever. But I wasn't a great salesperson. I was just a good communicator. I didn't really care about the money. I went into recruitment. I didn't really care about robbing 50 pence off of labourers. It wasn't really my thing. And I guess what kind of pushed me to the point is I'd built up quite a lot of debt, to be frank, and my life had kind of spiraled out of control for some time. And I just realised I really needed to do something else. I was just depressed. I was having panic attacks. And I was just sat there one day, and the one thing I could look at in work was construction websites, because I worked in trades and labour, so I could quite freely look through construction websites and job boards and nobody'd notice. And I kind of thought, could I work in construction, not knowing what I'd do, and blanketed out a CV to loads of people. Got a phone call saying, how did I feel about being a crane operator? I didn't feel anything about being a crane operator. People always think I'm going to tell them some grand story about me walking through London, looking up at tower cranes, going, oh, this is the life for me. This is all I've ever wanted. But it's not. It's not really like that. All it was an opportunity to change my life. And it was almost someone just handing me an opportunity and saying, do you want to do an apprenticeship? We're going to train you up to do something completely different. You don't have to work in sales anymore. How do you feel about it? And it was simply that.
And Caroline, I mean, you've gone from working for some of the largest tier ones and consultancies to setting up your own PM business. And, that took quite a while, I think, transition, which, I know you can talk about kind of later. But can you talk about the transition and kind of like of doing it and what you've learned along the way? You're on mute, Caroline.
I've not learned to find my mute button. I think what I've learned along the way, I started, I've worked at a lot of consultancies, and I found myself sort of not really in control of where I was working, what I was working. So I've worked across a lot of industries. I've worked for a lot of different sort of consultant setups, and each of them sort of approach processes and programs and projects slightly differently, equally between private and public sector. And I think over the years you sort of start to own in on where you best fit, because I do think from a project management perspective, it's all sort of personality and character does fit into different industries as well. And you also, well, I figured out what I was passionate about, and actually it made a lot of sense after a while. And you know, a lot of people had listened to me talk about what I wanted to do, and I debated over it. When's the right time? Do I have enough experience? And I think ultimately there was never a right time. It was just, for me, it had to be then, and I had to do it for myself. And actually, again, Katie was just mentioning opportunity. Sometimes things just align in a way that you just need to grab it, and you just need to do it. And I'm a project manager. I'm all about risk management. People will tell you to say, oh, right, you've got to take a risk. It's a managed risk. And you know, you weigh up the pros and cons of it. So yeah, that's how I flipped, really. And largely I do exactly the same as I was doing for consultancies, but just for myself now.
And Christina, I mean, you set up Matter, I think 6 years ago, and you know, what made you want to go out kind of, you know, alone, and why did you set up? Because you mean you worked for some very large organizations, so yeah, what made you set it up?
Yeah, I think in my first part of my career, I tried very hard. Like everyone said, I saw if I go to the best engineering company, I will be happy and forever. So, and I learned so much from all these companies. I work with, met lots of fantastic people. But then after I achieve like all this goal and work on fantastic project, they still feel there's something missing, of I didn't really quite feel something can really completely match with my personal life and my life goal to the work I'm doing. And so after I tried most of the company, like all the good company, and I just decide maybe it's the time I should try something different to see if I can actually create that environment can completely match my life and my work goal together. Yeah. So that's how I say I Matter.
That's cool. But I think, you know, setting up your own business platform, project or space is something many people think or dream about. Especially, we've obviously just had January, you know, when resolutions and vision boards kind of abound. But, you know, let's be honest, starting anything new is quite daunting. And I think often for me, it was like, it's very heavily romanticized, and it's great, but it is tough. So I think, you know, Katie, starting again with kind of with you, like those like reservations, those fears about changing, and like how you overcome them, because it is hard.
Yeah, and it was hard, and it was a big decision to kind of leave something that, you know, that all right, the money wasn't great, but it was a steady income. And I'd recently moved. I moved from a very large recruitment agency, which I'd worked at for 2.5 years, which wasn't the best time, and to a smaller one in Dartford, which I really liked. So I'd only been there a few months, and then this opportunity came up. So it's kind of like, this is quite good at the moment. Do I jack this in and do that? And I remember when I come home and I told my dad, and I said, oh, Langer Rock rang me up, and they said, how do I feel about being a crane operator? And will I swear? I won't swear. But he said, he said, did you tell them to F off? And I said, no, I didn't do that. But the thing with me is, he was really like, you sure you want to do this? And then my ex-boyfriend at the time was like, oh, you know, it's full of men, it's going to be dirty, it's going to be this, that, and the other. And I thought, hold up, you're all saying I can't do this. Let's prove you wrong. And then and that kind of drove me on a little bit as well. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy decision to make. And it was, you know, my time in college, obviously there's a lot of men. And then when I went on site, it was horrendous. But I guess it was a change I needed. So I kept that.
And I think, Katie, like things are getting better in that transition of like coming into it, but like you talk about, like we all assume that like when you rock up at site that you know exactly what you're doing, but it's like you know, and you talk about, it's like, well, actually when you on your, you know, you forget that like you don't know what you don't know.
It's horrendous. And you know, and I always say to people, if I was younger, or if that was my first job, I wouldn't have gone back on that second day. I probably wouldn't have even lasted half a day. I'd have gone home, because it was just really daunting. And everyone who works in construction thinks that everyone's been there a million times and they know where everything is and they know how people work and units work, and it's a real strange working system. You know, you go from living in an office and doing that whole thing, and then you're working on site and there's like these little cliques of people, and it's just really weird. It's really, really strange.
Yeah, I can agree. And you know, Christina, like what were the main challenges in setting up Matter? Like, yeah, because it's not easy, so let's be honest about the actual challenges.
Yeah, well, the things is like the pros of working for all the good company is you learn so much things in technical terms, but the con is you never need to worry about where to find your client, because when you work for a good company, that people come to you. So when the first thing, so it actually take me about 3 or 4 years pondering around, because I keep asking people, where do you find your client? How do you find your project? And nobody can tell me. And so it really take me a while, just try and error, all loads of random things, going to loads of bizarre events, and then slowly finding my way out. And that's why, in a way, that I was really think that if there is like a mentor network can actually help people, would really be great, because I really struggle alone and almost giving up in the first step, just finding my client. And then the next step of learning about how to do networking, because again, as an engineer, you don't really need to do any networking, and you don't need to worry about sale, because you're an engineer. What do you need to sell for? And then on top of it, another challenge is like what Katie said, being a female in the construction is a minority. So it's very hard to build that image, especially when you come to do the sale, to build the trust as well, because it's already something a bit like not common. But I like to see it as advantage. Now I just don't care, because in a way is you can just say, why should people think engineer should be a certain prototype? It's like now we are in the diversity where everybody's different, so it's getting better. I mean, like I can see it's getting much better. Yeah.
Cool. I really thought, from a construction tech point of view, I thought the hardest part would be like building the product. What no one tells you, that's the easy part. The hard part is then finding people to use it, and like, you know, that bit to selling. And it's like when you work for like Mason the Arabs, the clients come to you, you haven't got to attract them. So yeah, it crosses over to the construction tech side. But Caroline, I mean, let's be honest, you talked about doing your own thing and making the jump for quite a long time. So I wondered, like, you know, what advice do you have to anyone, you know, on the call thinking about setting up their own space or, you know, business within construction?
I did talk about it for a long time. It took me a long time to say which, because it's scary, and everybody around me, and I think everybody around us, is what's drummed into us is security, safe, you know, you've got a job, you've got an income, you'll have a pension, your holidays are paid, what if you get really sick? Like all of this stuff it's fear. And actually, you know, that is a good place for some people, and that's enough. And Christine was saying, you know, you work for all these things, you're working on these fantastic projects, but there's something, if you're not in control of your life, and that's how I felt. I didn't feel in control. I felt like I couldn't choose the clients. Like I was working on a lot of things that I was passionate about, but I had to pick up bits of jobs that I wasn't particularly passionate about. And for me, that was not that wasn't something I was prepared to do. So I'm a control freak, clearly. I think in terms of pushing it, it's recognizing the people around you, recognizing what you do for work. And people talk about networking like it is this mysterious dark art. Networking is ultimately just be good to the people around you. You have a network. Just by turning up at work, you're surrounded by other people doing the same thing. And the network is talking to the person that you sit next to for 3 years, and they move to another job or they move to another project. They've had a great experience with you. You've had a lovely time at work. You've been diligent. You've been conscientious. They take that opinion of you to their next company, and that just goes tenfold. Especially, you know, I work in London, so it's quite easy, and the construction industry tends to be quite niche, and everybody pops from one job to another, and there's a lot of cross-pollination, if that's not a horrible word. But for me, it's the value of people and the value of network. And the minute I realised that actually I'm not shy and I do know a lot of people, and I've worked in a lot of places and had a really lovely time and some great conversations, and realising that work is also not a professional space with walls up. I can be myself at work, and I can have those working relationships are also personal relationships, again, sort of opens the doors up. So I think, to put it short, actually your network, the people you work with, are probably what is most important to me and has been most important. And also the people around you doing different things. So I was lucky enough to work with Sarah. Sarah was talking about setting up Simterra, and that's inspiring. And if you do want to go out and do something new, seek out those people that are doing something, because that energy and momentum is catching. And actually you can't be around people like that and not want to do something for yourself.
Damn. I mean, I think we're going to come on to this in terms of the marketing, because Christina, I from watching both of you, you both have quite different, you do overlap on networking, and I've seen you both kind of do it, but I feel like Christina has like ramped it up, where you take quite different approaches. And we're going to come on because I think whenever you're doing kind of something out, marketing, which I think is seriously underconsidered, plays a huge part in the success of like launching, establishing and growing a new business or venture. And I want to talk about some of the different ways you've approached marketing to establish yourself within the kind of construction sector, because, you know, each of you engage with social media incredibly differently. So, you know, Katie, you have an incredible social media reach and a highly engaged kind of audience. And I think I want to talk about like how much it's made an impact on your career, and in particular, like, what's your main advice? Because this is not something I think a lot of, I think the next generation down are much more savvy on it. But, you know, I'm certainly not. And I think, you know, what are your main bits of advice to anybody on kind of social media in terms of that promotion?
Yeah, and it's a really weird one, because you never quite, even when I started, there wasn't many people in construction who were kind of putting themselves out there and documenting their journey and their apprenticeships and things like that. And I started it for awareness, because I really loved the impact that it made on my life. It changed my life. And I thought there's probably other people out there that this could change their life. This could be an opportunity. And that's why it started. And then people were really interested in everything I was doing. And but I wish I started a bit more heavily earlier, if that makes sense, because I don't know if you're on Instagram, but I follow all these amazing kind of plant operators, tradespeople, and they have gone through the absolute roof, just showing what they do on a day-to-day basis. Absolutely massive. And I mean, I was talking on a podcast the other day about the rise of the influencer, and there's a girl called Amy, who calls Digger Girl on Instagram, and she's now sponsored by Hyundai. They sponsor her as an influencer for them. And this is taking it to a whole different realm. Yeah, you work in construction, you work on site, and this is like this extra bit that's just gone crazy. And I guess my bit of advice is don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And I'm guessing we all know it's all quite hard when you're working for these large sites to put yourself out there. When you work, I mean, I worked on Crossrail and Tideway, and you can't go around just snapping photos and sticking them on social media. It doesn't really work like that. It takes a bit of careful navigating. But I guess the most important thing is with social media and what I do is to be yourself, because people buy into people. And, you know, talking about Amy, people buy into Amy because she's a personality who's up in Scotland documenting what she does on a day-to-day basis in a digger. There's another lady, a wee lassie who's out in Australia documenting what she does in a digger, but it's their personalities that sell it. It's networking. It's a different kind of networking. It's putting yourself out there, but it's an online networking, but it's just as important, and it can open up so many doors for you. It really can.
I think, you know, in particular, and I've made this mistake, and I just want to kind of draw it. But you talk about, Kate, I've heard you talk about in the past around, it's very first of all, I think there's a difficulty in around like putting yourself out there. I think that is quite hard to do. It's like, especially I've grown up being like, oh no, don't, you know, and you know, LinkedIn is the platform of the humble brag, and I'm having to get more comfortable kind of with that. But I think a big thing is around being more honest and educating people rather than selling to them. So I think you talk about this, Katie, and I think that's a big difference, because you have to taking that different shift. Actually, you do get better results.
You do, and you get more, like I said, I mean, we were talking about before we come on. So I worked in recruitment before. So I've always had LinkedIn as a tool. And when I was in recruitment, nobody was interested in connecting. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Nobody wanted to reply to a message. As soon as I stopped selling and started educating and telling people what I did and putting up these kind of funky, I work heavily on imagery. I love photos, and you know, you're sat in the middle of the River Thames taking a photo of the London Eye. It's impressive. People love it. And people just start into people. I think people feel like they know you. So the interactions become higher, the comments become higher, but you have to be really on it. You have to reply to all these people, and you have to like what they're saying, and you have to, and don't get me wrong, it's not all pleasant. People can be really bloody rotten as well, and horrible, and it can be awful, and it can be a terrible place to be. And some of the comments that I read that I've had in the past and on these other profiles are horrendous. So you need a slightly thicker skin, but it is about that interaction and that network.
I agree. And Christina, like, I know you use social media quite a lot for Matter, and you've got like quite a forward thinking kind of approach to that. But can you talk about, you know, how you use it for Matter and the value you get out of social media?
Yeah. To be honest, it's like when I was trying to do the marketing plan, there was also advice to go to the route of what Katie said, to be the personal influencer and then promote your company in that way. But I was decide to do it in a slightly different approach, because I gone through the exercise of what I really want to get out of this business. And then through my marketing exercise and branding, I realized that I'm actually in this because I want to see if I can create a culture and the company that with the values I believe in. And that's why I gone through the traditional of I do the branded the company with the new website, then we support with the social media. And me myself is kind of like want to be a supporting role for the company Matter, because what I really want to have is like to kind of leave a little bit legacy and the impact to show the industry we can do things differently, and to create something that things is always missing when I work for all these companies, and I want to see if I can actually make it happen. That's why I using the, so it's also like Katie, all our social media platform is nothing about sale. It's all about what we think is a good practice, and how we can help people when they look at the post, even just get one idea away. If we can just help you in a little idea, trying to do things differently, make your project better, that's what our social media platform, because I think along the way, not only you learn something from it, but you also get to know us as Matter better. And also like I reckon it's like everybody's different. And I try so hard, want to do social media myself, end up just nothing. So I actually now have a team, a fantastic team to help me and support me, and they can express like what matters much better than I am. But I am the one who give the energies, and they help me to express it. Yeah.
So, and Caroline, I mean, you have a minimal online presence, but I know, you know, you've already spoken about doing like, you know, that face-to-face networking for you is absolutely key. And I, you know, is there a reason why you prefer it that way and you've taken that approach?
To be honest, I've been inspired by these two to get my act together and sort of up my game a little bit. To be honest, I'll hold my hands up. It's because I'm kind of rubbish with social media, both in my personal life and my business life. But also, I'm quite early in my business setup, and I think, you know, Christina's talking about building my brand, your brand, and your values, and I think I'm still owning that, and I'm still trying to sort of understand where I want to take things. And my initial sort of business basis was I just, it was a very selfish endeavor. Actually, it was, I want to work on projects that I'm passionate about. I want to work for people that, you know, for specialists, I want to learn from the people, and I want to sort of take ownership of my own sort of direction. But actually, if you think about growing a business or growing something, it would be a fantastic marketing tool. But equally, in terms of being a mentor and sharing your life experience, I think that's important, because actually all of our realities of what people imagine construction industry being like are fantastic. I mean, I think we're all so lucky for the way that we see the world and the people that we get to interact with, and like how different every day is. And if you talk about literal perspective, you know, I don't get to go in cranes ever, but standing on top of roofs looking at services might sound like a boring day, but sometimes I stood on the rooftops of London looking out over, you know, who gets to see London from that direction and that perspective. So maybe that should be shared. So I'm sorry, I'm backtracking on my entire approach to social media, but
oh, good. That's the whole point around, I think, you know, building a brand and building that presence, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. You can kind of go on it, and I think, you know, construction as well, I think it can get like a bad rep, but it is an incredible industry to work in. We all work in it, you know, and everyone kind of in this call. And I think promoting that, especially, you know, as the workforce is getting older, we're trying to encourage more people to kind of come into it. Yeah, I mean, I think we all love it, or we better, because we're all trying to sell it. So in terms of like advice to potential entrepreneurs on the next steps that they should take to kind of like in terms of starting out, like what would you kind of give? So again, Katie, starting with you.
I mean, I'm not an entrepreneur, and I think I've been inspired by you guys as well. Off I go. No, it's, I mean, I can only talk about, you know, in terms of what I've done with social media and setting that up. And I think it's not being afraid to put yourself out there. And like I say, there are horrible people out there. There are really horrendous people. The majority of people are decent, as in life. And it's about focusing on the positive rather than the negative, and knowing that there's a reason for why you do things. So I always say there's a reason for why I put myself out there, and I guess in some regards it's slightly self-serving, but it's not really for that. It's for awareness of the industry. It's for awareness of roles. It's for awareness of apprenticeships, degree, non-degree, and working. I mean, I do a lot of school visits as well, and it's just around building that for me.
The Caroline, what about you?
What, my last piece of advice?
Or just, yeah, your tips, advice, yeah.
Just do it. There's never a right time. Manage the risk, write it down. I feel like writing down things a lot of the time is, you know, what do you want? And sometimes that is a selfish drive. Maybe you feel overworked. Maybe you want greater control over the hours, over the people that you work with. Maybe you want to work from home now. You know, there's a big drive for people who, a lot of offices and companies have got different policies in terms of their flexibility around school pickups or whatever it is. But I think for me, it's rather than focusing on what you want your business to do or what direction you want that to take, what do you want for yourself? You know, is it about what you're doing for work? Is it about how your day-to-day life is? Maybe you don't even enjoy work and you want to only do it 3 hours a day. I don't know, but I think writing those things down and then figuring out what that looks like allows you to you then sort of subconsciously make decisions that get you to where you want to be, and actually it makes it a lot smoother transition, because you're doing stuff that you really believe in, and you've really sort of just understood your own values and what you need. So yeah, write lists.
And Christina, how about you?
Yeah, I think like I'm echo what Katie and Caroline says is in a way I think that when you become entrepreneur, it's much harder than working for someone else, and you will get pushed over. You will get to do lots of people want you to do all the things you don't want to do. So I like really the advice I was given is you really have to find out what do you want to do in this life and what do you enjoy most, and the work have to be part of your life if you want to be an entrepreneur, but the work can't be your life. It's a subtle difference, but when you become entrepreneur, it's very easy just get like all messed up together. So I will think it's very important to make sure and keep reminding yourself what you in this for. It's like what Caroline said, the list, but I think there are lots of good books out there. I recently read like a book, he actually come up with a list for you. You can go and check on yourself. And it's really, being entrepreneur can be quite lonely sometimes, that the good thing is you don't have a boss anymore, but also it means that there's no one to teach you anything. You have to teach yourself.
Every day is a school day when you're like, how do you do legals? How do you do HR? Like, never underestimate knowing how to Google and a can-do attitude. I would for that.
But that's why it's good to have people around you doing similar things, but equally doing things and not knowing what they're doing, because actually it can feel scary. But we all figured out that a lot of people day to day don't know what they're doing, and we're all just sort of figuring it out, and that's what work is, isn't it? Don't go into it with the idea that you can already do it.
Unless you're a structural engineer, and then obviously you've got to have an underlying qualification to be doing the drawings that you're doing. Just to be really clear on that. Got ya. Christina, what's the name of that book?
I think it's called The Next 5 Steps.
Okay, be like we'll drop.
I regularly recommend it because you also talk about different personality of whether you are entrepreneur or intrapreneur, because you have to kind of knowing yourself first, because not everybody is the same. And also, I don't believe running business is for everyone. I mean, everybody can run a business, but whether you are going to enjoy it or not, there's another thing. So it's better to know what you enjoy first, then go and try out, and then you find out you don't like it. Yeah.
Well, look, I'm going to wrap this up, and I think thank you so much for all of your time, as well as everybody else. And I think just to conclude, like in terms of anybody wants to reach out to you, where's the best place to do that? So starting with Christina.
Yeah, if you want to reach us, just have a look at our website. Is wearematter.uk.
Cool. Caroline?
Just my LinkedIn page, guys. I've already admitted that I'm terrible at social media, but I will get better. But please do message. I'll help where I can.
Katie?
Yeah, you can get me on LinkedIn at Katie Kelleher, or on Katie Cranes on everything else.
Thank you, everybody. And thank to Katie, Caroline, and Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you.